What's going on, guys? Welcome to Keeping It Real. My name is Russell Nova, financing extraordinaire, multifamily and shopping center retail operator here in New York and Florida. Together with my co-host, Mark Martov, realtor, operator, and most importantly, master negotiator.
It's an understatement when you say master negotiator because this guy is unreal. He'll negotiate the hell out of you, and then yet after that, he'll still complain.
It's not enough. It's not enough.
As though he continues to negotiate. So you're absolutely right.
If it means anything, I've learned a thing or two from you.
To bring that up, I want to welcome our special guest today, somebody that's in the news, someone that's on Instagram, and you've seen him, my dear friend, operator, manager, and also owner of WeLend, a private real estate investment fund. Ruben, thank you so very much for coming in here, man.
Me, guys. It's a pleasure. It's a long time coming, and it's finally... Honestly, it's surreal because you guys have been on our podcast so many times, and now I'm on your podcast, which is great. So thank you so much for having me.
I think, honestly, we're honored to have you. Just to get like a quick background, I got introduced to Ruben. He used to be a client of mine, so he used to be landlord, flipper, operator as well. I was chasing him for his business. He was one of the few guys that in the beginning gave me a shot.
I'll never forget when we first met. We met at one of our properties in Bushwick. It was a 3-unit property that we bought for pennies at that time, but it needed a lot of work, obviously, and we just couldn't sell it, right? And we couldn't sell it for a good 4 months. This guy comes around 2 weeks later, it's sold. Sold for not only the price that we were looking for, but another, I think, $50,000.
Yeah, $50,000 on top. Yeah.
What did I just say? I just said master negotiator, but that's what it is.
I think he sold it within 2 or 3 phone calls because he knew exactly who to go to and who to actually, basically present this product to. And they had a Chinese.
What area was that?
All cash.
Yeah. What's that?
What area was that?
Bushwick.
Gates Avenue.
I mean, this guy is Bushwick. This guy is Bed-Stuy.
But those were great times, by the way.
But don't forget who introduced us. We got to put in the plug. Serge McDeeve.
He
introduced us. He put in the plug. He said, "Listen, I called him. I said, I can't move this property for whatever reason." And he said, "You know what? You got to talk to my boy Mark." Mark walked in there. I remember he had a gray suit on, and he's like, "Listen, we're gonna sell this thing really quick," and he did. He delivered.
And this is what I love about natural progression, right? We all started from somewhere. We're all here at this point.
Right.
Now, you, Ruben, right? You are where you are in life now.
Bingo. That's
not where you started, right? Where you started, I still remember, Mark has great stories with you. I have stories with you as well.
Yeah,
when
you guys were doing some of our financing.
There you go. So when you started in this business, we were doing the financing for you guys, right? And I remember me and Igor. It was a great business where you guys were doing that, and then with natural progression. It is the same exact thing as we were. Natural progression, we were kind of saying, okay, we were financing for all of these people. We're having a great time. We were doing a lot of great things. But now it's time for us to do something different.
You went into the operation side, right? You went to become an operator, and I had the same thing. I was sitting there one day, and I'm like, damn, I lost money on this one deal in the Bronx. I lost $40,000 actually with Greg. We lost $40,000, and I remember sitting there and thinking the only person that made money on that deal was my private lender.
Was that the moment when you realized?
That was my aha moment. I said, okay, all right, I got to switch over. I got to think about it. A few years later, we then started, WeLend, but before that, it was just operation, right? And I wanted to be on the other side, the same way as you guys. You were on the finance side, and you wanted to go on the operation side, right? And you were on the selling side.
Yeah.
You ended up going into operating, and now you're developing and doing a lot of big things. So
thanks.
Kudos to you guys. Natural growth is important, man.
I love that aha moment because everybody has one, and it's also about the timing that nobody talks about, where you have that aha moment, and then where you actually get from that aha moment to where you are today.
Totally.
Yeah, people think it's just
never
it just happened. No.
Never. Listen, sometimes it's being in the right place at the right time, right, and having the right resources.
By the way, it's never the right time. I'll tell you my experience. I don't know about how it happened with you guys.
It's always the worst time.
It's always the worst time. It's always something's going on, there's another check coming from somewhere else to distract you, or something or another. But it's about the guys that get up in the morning and make it happen. By the way, I was terrified. My first deal, I was shaking.
I mean, if you weren't, then you're not human, right? Because we all there's always a scare tactic in us. We have to be afraid of everything you do, especially when you're dealing with real things. You're signing on the dotted line. You're putting up real dollars,
personal guarantees,
not only
your real dollars, but other people's money as well. That's very important. You know what I mean? So. No, I agree with you. I think evolution is important. I think that you have to get out of your comfort zone, right? If you're always in your comfort zone, you're doing something wrong. There's no growth. So you have to step outside the box. You have to do something that makes you not sleep at night. Not sleep at night from the wrong perspective of, oh, wow, I'm doing something wrong or illegal.
Yeah.
Right? It's not sleep at night because you know you've taken the right risks.
Right.
You've made the right estimates and guesstimates to be able to take into the right direction. Otherwise, are you growing if you're not doing that? I don't know.
100%.
Now tell
Very
us,
well said.
if you're being WeLend. Tell us what WeLend is. Like for the folks out there, what exactly is WeLend? What do you guys do?
So we are a direct private lender, AKA hard money lenders. We provide short-term capital to real estate operators and investors, predominantly New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. So kind of like the Eastern Corridor. We do a lot also in Florida. So it's essentially kind of like a two vertical field. One, we raise money from private investors, right? We actually, know a lot of high net worth, ultra high net worth investors who want to deploy their capital passively. So they deploy their capital into our fund, and then our fund ultimately reinvests that into hard money loans, first lien positions, personally guaranteed by the operators, and always recorded as a mortgage on the property. So the investments that we make on behalf of our investors are really passive, but most importantly, secured. And I think that's why a lot of our investors are attracted to our fund, because it not only provides security, but also provides consistent cash flow on a monthly basis. As our borrowers are paying, we pay our investors, right? And that's the most important thing.
What's your day-to-day like? What does Ruben do on a day-to-day basis?
A number of things, right? So one, my phone is always attached to my hip. I just went away with my wife, and literally at the beach clubs, I was on the phone the entire time, right?
I get yelled at all the time for that, man.
And I tell her, listen, the only way that I can, because she was sitting there, planning the next vacation. I'm like, well, then in that case, I got to pay for the next vacation. So someone's got to do that, right? Someone's got to work. So, always attached to the hip. I'm always yielding calls from our brokers, from our loan originators, from our capital markets team, from our accounting team, from my servicing team.
I'm sure the sales guy's probably ripping you up also.
It's never ending, right? There's always something that's happening. There's always something to be done. We manage a number of things. Where at this point, thankfully, we're managing a little under 170 million across our entire capital stack. We're growing, and the only thing that I feel like you have to do is always stay on top of it, right? There's only one day off, which is Shabbos, right? And I think we've been trying to coordinate this podcast right around the Shabbat that's happening today. But the only day off you have is Friday night to Saturday night, right? Otherwise, you're on the phone at all times, making sure that things are moving in the right direction while you're sitting there uncomfortably, because obviously you're outside your comfort zone.
Right. So you started in the business from operating, and now you're into this. I mean, it can't be an easy progression. It can't be an easy situation. Tell us some of that.
Did you ever even dream of this? Like one day that
No. So it actually came coincidentally. So while
I feel like you like when I first originally met him, I felt like this guy is going to be like
the next big developer.
Yeah, like
even my sister said the same thing.
Yeah. Like this guy's going to be in Manhattan building skyscrapers.
God willing, listen, it's never too late. You never know. You never know what direction we're going to go, right? But
sure.
Today, I'll tell you, when I was in law school, and obviously, I'm an attorney. I don't practice, but while in law school, I get this call from Leonard Rosen, who is you could say, godfather of private lending. He's now retired, dear friend of mine. And he calls me, he says, listen, I see that you're a real estate operator in New York. Do you use private money? I said, of course I do. Otherwise, you can't really operate in New York because the prices are so high. You don't have an infinite amount of capital. So he said, you have to come to my conference. I said, what conference is that? He said, well, there's this conference where all the private lenders come together. We talk about private lending. You probably will get a much cheaper source of capital, which I did. But you have to come here because you'll meet a lot of other private lenders. At that time, I was about to graduate law school. I was about to start studying for the bar. I said, you know what? I have nothing better to do. Might as well fly out to the West Coast and find some cheap source of capital. I went in there as a private investor, private developer. I walked out as a private lender. I've never looked back since. Since then, we've originated about $700 million across about 1,400 loans. And the beautiful part about it is that we never lost a dime of principal.
Wow.
And that is critical.
That's actually very impressive.
$700 million deployed.
Because I know guys that are way smaller than you,
right,
and have lost.
Right. And I don't think it's because we are geniuses. I mean, we're right in our own. We're smart in our own right. But I think the real reason is because of the structure of providing debt. You're the first lien position.
Right.
You're the
safest.
You're the last one into the deal, but you're the first one out. Before anyone takes out a penny or a dime of their money, the lender, the bank, is always repaid first. There's a saying, right? In the casino, the bank always wins.
Bank always wins.
Thank God. But listen, anything can happen at this point so far. we've been nothing but smooth sailing and up and up.
Let me ask you a question. Where do you see yourself and the company in, let's call it, the next 10 years?
It's a good question. So for many years, I really felt that I want to leave the company as a legacy to my children. I want to leave the company for something for them to work on. And then I thought about it. I said, listen, I'm sure they're going to want to build something of their own. What if they come back to me, when they're in their 20s and say, Pops, I don't want to work with you, right? I'm a little tough, right? When it's time to bring in the deliverables, I expect them, no ifs, ands, buts about it, no excuses. So I thought to myself, do I really want my sons to work with me, right? So now the trajectory that I'm trying to take the company is for an ultimate exit and a sale, right?
Got it.
And I expect within...
So like a hedge fund or something like that?
Exactly. So, we started the fund... When I started the fund, I could have started it in a very easier way. I could have just formed an entity and then filed it for $1,500 and just started raising money.
No, but you went all the way.
I went all the way. I spent about $70,000 in just putting a fund structure together. It's a 506c Reg D through the SEC. Cost me almost $70,000 to put together.
That's actually, by the way, that's actually a good price, by the way.
That is
somebody
a good
else
price.
that's way over 100.
And there was a lot. I mean, this was 8 years ago, right? There was a lot of value that was added by this attorney that actually put it together for us. But I could have done it the easier way, right? $1,500 versus $70,000. Yeah. But the reason why I did that is because I wanted to attract, and I did attract, thank God, institutional capital. Because once you attract institutional capital, your cost of capital has gone down
tremendously, right?
Is that where majority of your capital comes from these days?
So today we have a combination of both. There's an entire capital stack. It is a equity from my friends and family, people that I've grown up with, people that I pray with, people that are my neighbors, right? I see them at the deli when I walk in to get a sandwich or anything like that. So these are my friends and family, my dear, you could say family, not even friends. They're all family. And then we also have 2 vehicles where we have 2 credit lines with institutional backed. One is a regional bank, and the other one is a private equity, private lender that is basically managing about, I think, $4 billion at this point.
Wow.
Now, you can't get into those doors unless you're buttoned up, right?
Of
you
course.
have the structure to be able to put it together, the presentation, the audited financials, and the track record, right? If you don't have the track record, you got nothing. And the only way that I was able to build a track record is by being able to put this fund together the way in which we did.
How do you differentiate yourself from all these other funds? And I'm going to ask you this question is because every day that I wake up, I see new funds popping up. I see new bridge lenders popping up. So you have competition, severe competition, and so do we on the financing side. How do you differentiate yourself when you go out into the market and you say, hold on, guys?
I'll just tell you, because as a client from WeLend, I'll just tell you, the amount of due diligence this guy does is unheard of. And we're gonna veer off into a little other conversation, but I'll tell you like this: he runs his own title. There's an appraisal. There is the appraiser
background searches. There's credit report searches. We verify the borrower's experience, but that's not what keeps us competitive. I think if anything, that would actually would keep me competitive from a perspective of raising money, because now my investors know that I cross every T and dot every I. Before any dollar goes out, I make sure that it's going into a good deal. But what was the question again? So
the question was, how do you differentiate yourself from other, private lenders, which are popping up every day?
Right. But the key here is not only about making sure that you're deploying capital the right way. The key here is that the borrowers, right? Because you have two vehicles, 2 verticals that you're managing. You want to make sure that your investors are happy, right? Their
and the
money
borrowers
is being deployed in the right way. But at the same time, you want to make sure that your borrowers are happy, right? Your borrowers are actually getting the service that they expect.
Yeah, like Ruben has an app, right? So for instance, the only thing that slows down construction or a project is money. That's the only thing.
Correct.
There's nothing else. There's nothing else. A plumber doesn't show up, you call another plumber. But if you don't have money to pay that plumber, you're sitting on the sidelines until you get money. So Ruben has an app that you download literally like, hey, I just finished plumbing. I need to pay the plumbers. Upload pictures. The money's in my account 24 hours.
Exactly.
So I told Ruben right now, like I'm paying him more versus somebody else. Like I've sent him an actual screenshot.
He did.
But I'm like, for the level of comfort.
That was his negotiation.
Yeah, master.
But the level of comfort that I have.
Edited on ChatGPT.
But by the way, the level of comfort that you have over there, knowing that like from experience already, that the money's there within 24 hours, That's it. And by the way, and that's the reputation that people have.
Right.
And by the way, all of us talk, right? We all know Washington. We all, I'm not going to name the competitors, but we know all of them. And guys like you that are operators, we all hang out together.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like I used to, when I was chasing developers, like the most referrals I got was from other developers saying, "Yo, this kid Mark sells the shit out of Bushwick.
Oh yeah,
give him a call."
Oh yeah.
So they're all in the same thing. And going back to the due diligence part, like I actually had Ruben on the phone with a deal that, like, I thought was too good to be true, which, by the way, turned out to be way too good to be true. And I had a second set of eyes. Then
you were buying
Brian,
something for pennies on the dollar in prime Bushwick, Florida.
Bushwick, New York.
New York.
He wants to go on vacation already.
We're trying to get the hell
he's
out
ready
of
to
here.
go.
But prime Bushwick, right? And at the end of the day, the question is like how and why, right? And obviously, after doing some due diligence, after just kind of asking the right questions, we figured out
that nobody else could figure out.
Something is up.
Why don't you tell the viewers, some of the challenges that you've gone through and what actually made you either proceed or not proceed with what you were talking about?
And I got to tell you, by the way, we're all human, right? So we get a good deal, right? We start making excuses in our head of like, why is this such a good deal?
Why it makes sense.
Or why you?
Yeah.
Right? Like, why you?
Yeah,
I'm in the right place, right time.
Right, exactly. I mean, there was certain things that checked off, right? So like, I wasn't going into blindly. She was going into foreclosure, was scheduled to go into auction already.
I think you got the deal like on a Monday, and the following Thursday was supposed to be in foreclosure.
Exactly.
At the auction.
At the auction, it was supposed to go there.
So you were trying to avoid that.
Right. So yeah, I was on paper bailing her out from foreclosure. She was going to put a couple of dollars in her pocket, and everybody wins.
Like, she has the time to move and the whole line.
Yeah, like you're going to lose the house anyway, so I might as well just give you something instead of you losing anything. The original contract price was $500,000 that a flipper, a wholesaler, got it. And then flipped it to me for $750,000.
$750,000, mind you. That property, as is, where is going for anywhere about $1 million to $1.1 million. Is where is, right?
Yeah.
He was getting it for $750,000. Meanwhile, the person that was flipping it over to him, because it was an A, B, C, you were the C. The B was getting it from the A, the original seller, the owner of the property.
For $500,000.
$500,000.
Okay, so a viewer's watching this right now, right? Yeah. I mean, why don't we dumb it down a little bit for people that are trying to understand exactly, you have a deal scenario in hand, right? Yeah. So why don't we dumb it down a little bit? So an individual that you were working with, that you found, she was going through a situation.
Foreclosure.
You as the realtor found out that, hey, she's going to foreclosure. What do? You pick up the phone like any other person would do.
This was actually brought to me. So in my industry, there's a lot of wholesalers.
Actually, a friend of yours too.
Well, at this point,
an acquaintance.
Former friend. Now an acquaintance, and he brought me the deal.
Okay.
Telling me this whole story. So I didn't find the actual homeowner. He found her. And he told me contract assignment, which means, it
happens.
Yeah, I'm wholesaling it to you. He told me the price, gave me the address. I said, send me right now. What do I sign? I literally said, where are you? I'm on the way to you.
No questions asked.
Yeah.
Okay, and that is just because you understand the market and you know the area and you knew that the price was great, and that's why you said that.
So you know what? I just remembered. I think they also did add that there was another buyer that was lined up, and he ended up walking from the deal because they didn't have enough liquidity, and that's
they gave us a beautiful story.
Good reason as to why they're selling it at such a under the value.
And you had to close, by the way, like he's right. You had to close like 4 or 5 days.
Right.
Okay, so you had a good price point and you were excited about this, but you also knew that in the back of your head, if you needed to close quickly, you could have called Ruben at Wheeland and they would have transacted quickly.
The only guy that I know of that could close in 3 days or 4 days.
Right.
Okay, so walk us through the next steps. What happened then?
So the big, well, first I called Ruben about the deal. There was a couple of like red flags. Nothing really stood out. Besides the fact that I got to give this guy $250,000 on top of his original price.
The $500,000.
Right. Like Ruben's big red flag was before anything even happened was like, hold on a second, this homeowner that's going into foreclosure.
She's selling it for
$500,000. He's like, does she have an attorney? Is there like a son, a daughter? Somebody's telling her like,
bro, if she puts this thing on the market right now,
fire sale,
$800,000-$900,000 from a cash buyer with no
fire sale.
Okay,
which she does, by the way, at the end of the story.
Right.
But
well, thanks for ruining it, but
no, we're gonna building it up. So I requested access for an architect to start. I'm closing in a couple of days. Let me get an architect in there. He could start drawing up plans and remodeling and getting us permits. I go in there. The architect's in there with me. This family has the house for 60 years. In my head, it's like ringing. We're closing in 3-4 days. The house is packed. There's nothing, like when I say packed, like
no boxes.
No boxes anywhere.
Nothing.
It just
no
packed.
Scotch tape.
Yeah, nothing. Right? So I'm thinking, not only are they not packing, there's not even a moving box like to fold standing anywhere. You're closing in 3-4 days.
That was a red flag
Interesting,
for him, right?
interesting,
that was
interesting,
a huge red flag.
interesting.
Yeah, and I'm walking around for like 40 minutes. I don't want to ruin my relationship with my wholesaler, but in my head, it's like ringing. Something
Why?
is wrong.
What's happening?
Something is going on here.
Okay.
And
you asked the question.
I asked
you
the
said,
question.
hey, where are the boxes?
Yeah,
Where
I said,
the hell are the boxes? Like,
I
you
said,
need me to bring you some boxes.
Yeah,
Wow.
I just asked. I was like, oh, so where are you guys going? Like, I like really, you know, by the way, like the relationship between wholesalers, because somebody that gets deals, it's like very sensitive. You don't want to piss off these guys because you get deals. I bought stuff, by the way, sometimes that like that wasn't even such a good deal, but like just to keep the guy happy so he gives me the next one. I've done that before.
Right.
I'm sure you have too.
I have done that also just to buy deals. Absolutely.
Just to keep the relationship going.
And sometimes just to keep your guys busy, too.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
So I asked her, I was like, listen, you guys packing soon or you have a place that you're going? She's like,
He was probably trying to sell them something else, knowing him.
so, and she's looking at me, she's like, packing for what?
Oh my God, I knew you were going to say that.
And I'm like, what do you mean packing for what? We're closing in 4 days. She's like, she's looking at me, she's like, closing on what? I'm like, the house.
Wow.
So I'm like, hold on a second.
What's happening?
Yeah, I'm like, hold on, aren't you in contract? And she goes, she's looking at me, she's like, in contract for what? I'm like, okay, so in my head, I'm like, listen, I'm a buyer with an architect, clearly in your house, so she knows something's going on.
Right, I was just about to ask you. So,
yeah, so she's like, yeah, we're selling the house. I was like, no, you're, and I said like the original price, which
she's listed. She signed a listing agreement with another group or another. Oh, a friend from her church.
Yes, that's how it started. So I'm like, hold on a second. You signed a contract to sell that you're selling the house, and she goes, I didn't sign anything.
I signed a listing agreement.
I'm like, listen, you signed something. Your signature is on a piece of paper somewhere. She's looking at me. She's like, I don't know what piece of paper you're talking about. She's like, I signed a listing agreement to sell the house with a real estate broker.
But I gotta say,
that I met at church, by the way.
Before you even walked in there, we called you and we said, look, something is just not right. And we looked at the parties, right? We looked at not only who the wholesaler was, who was the seller. We look at the attorneys involved too, right? And one, the wholesalers and the wholesaling team, they didn't have the best of reputations.
Oh, associated with, you know that saying, you show me who your friends are,
and I'll tell you who you are.
Of course.
Yeah,
I live by that.
I want to say something like to all the
I
listeners
live by
that are paying attention. You surround yourself with successful people, you're going to be successful. You surround yourself with bad people, 99.9%. That's
and I can tell you that my 2026 is exactly that. I'm keeping my circle extremely tight because that's something that I wanted to do, and I live by that.
Yeah, so this guy's like associated with not the friendliest of folks. That
not mentioning any names.
Yeah, I don't want to even get into that conversation. But the long story short about the seller is she tells me, I don't even know what you're talking about. She's like, I signed a listing agreement with somebody that I met through my church, like a realtor that's in my church. So that guy is just preying on elderly people that are going to church. Yeah, I'm sure it's not his first one. And they had the biggest red flag that Ruben picked up and my attorney picked up is the lawyer that was representing them is like criminal record. He's got fraud. Like
he's being like, I think, currently investigated by the Bar Association. He has like an open violation with them right now and stuff like that.
So anyone who's listening right now and kind of have an idea of what these gentlemen are actually speaking about, it is crucially important to, yes, you pick up the phone and you try to get the business, but it's even more important to get the right people involved to make sure that you guys do your due diligence, because things like this happen. Absolutely. It's unfortunate and it's very sad that it happens, but there are people that pry.
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable.
100%.
By the way,
100%.
And by the way, in today's, and I don't want to point fingers, but in today's day and age, especially in New York City, if you're going to do like, and I'm just going to round it off, if you're going to do 20 deals, one of them, something is off.
Right.
So no matter what it is, something is off, especially like in our line of work.
But Mark, let me just tell you one thing. You can do 20 deals, but that one deal
could destroy you.
Could destroy you.
Absolutely.
So that's why you need the right partner.
So, kudos to you guys for stopping that. God forbid. I mean, just imagine what could have happened.
You want to hear the craziest part about all this? Well, there's actually two. Ruben will tell you about the second one, how the guy was telling us later on. But This.
No, it's a story. Listen, I mean, these are.
Attorney, as soon as I left that house, but I like basically ran out of there because I was like, I don't want any part of this. I ran to my literally drove to my attorney's office, told him what happened. My attorney's sitting there like, what do you mean? Like, how are we in contract? This woman doesn't even know.
And you were hard on the contract, by the way.
Yeah. I had a non-refundable deposit.
You had a non-refundable deposit to the wholesaler.
Yes.
Because you were so that's the culprit.
To the wholesaler's attorney.
Yes.
Who was under investigation by the Bar Association.
Okay.
My attorney listens to my story, calls the wholesaler's attorney, and said, "Listen, we were just at the house. We don't know
what the hell you guys are trying to pull."
Yeah, he's like, "We don't know what you guys are trying to pull, but we want no part of it." That attorney responds by saying, I have your wire instructions. I'm going to refund you the money right now. And I don't know if it was because we're both at Chase Bank and the wires immediately hit. He hit and we dropped the phone. I'm not even exaggerating. Literally 3-4 minutes later, there's an email saying
the wire's been hit.
Why? Yeah, you know how Chase notifies you the wire's been hit?
Yeah.
Literally on the spot. Meaning he didn't even have enough time to call his client and say hey,
He's probably online banking already, sending the wire while he was on the phone with you. And while you were driving to your attorney, we decided to call the wholesalers, right? And we're like,
so
hey,
me,
guys,
Ruben, are on the phone.
He calls me. He's like, listen, Ruben, I think you were right. I think your hunch was on the ball because these guys are not moving. They have no boxes. And I said, all right, listen, I know the wholesaler too. We're all from the same industry. I was like, why don't we call them? Let's see what's going on. And when we called them, they basically started playing the role of oh, don't worry about it. Everything is okay. Just come to the closing and guess what? Just trust me.
I love that.
We will get this done for you. Don't worry about it. And when someone says, just trust me, don't trust.
And by the way, he was diving into it. I'm going to have everybody at the closing.
Every single person.
Do people still do this? I mean, it's 2026. What is wrong with people?
The guy turned it around.
What happened to honesty in this world?
By the way, it's these rotten apples that just make the rest of the farm look horrible.
Why can't we just wake up, do honest business? There's so much work around.
Right.
And that's what. And by the way, that's what separates us from
the others.
Yeah, the others.
Yeah.
And by the way, and the guy was like, keep in mind, so it's me, Ruben, on the phone. There's a conference call. There's a couple of other people on the phone also. And the guy is focusing the conversation onto Ruben, like as if Ruben's in contract, not me. and is complaining to Ruben about me saying, why couldn't this guy just keep his mouth closed? What is he doing? He's messing up this whole thing. But I took care of it. I already spoke to them.
You shouldn't have spoken to the sellers. I'm like, well, bro, you can't really blame him, right? He gets to the property. And he's sitting there looking at the property, and there's nothing being moved. There's nothing being packed. How do you expect
that was a good hunch. That was a good hunch.
He was going to be putting in probably $600,000-$700,000 of your own equity into the deal. I was going to be putting millions into the deal, right? And I'm sitting there saying, listen, he's like, well, what are you worried about? Mm-hmm. I'm like, dude, I'm putting over, $2 million into this deal of my own, friends and family money. I want to make sure that every dollar is secure.
Yeah. So your hunch was right.
Bro, I was shaking.
So your hunch was right.
Shaking, and it's so funny how the guy flipped the whole conversation to make it feel like something's wrong with me.
Reverse psychology.
Something's wrong with me.
I know people like that.
And he kept on drilling it into the phone. Mark, stick to being a broker. You're not an investor. You keep being a broker.
Now you're more of an investor than you are a broker now. I'll be honest.
So that was, that was typical. That was typical 101 defense mechanism, right?
Yeah. So, by the way, the psychology was. By the way, my other partner was on the line, and he was kind of eating it up a little bit, and I was like, nah, listen, man, I was at this house. Something ain't right, and by the way, this guy was just attacking my. Just you stick to what you're good at. You don't know.
We're gonna do what we're good at, which is clearly
fraud.
So you have a good relationship with Ruben, and obviously you were able to go to Wieland. Let's just say, for example, this right here, from what I'm hearing, I mean, this is #1 customer service. Right. I mean, for someone to just not only be able to lend, because most lenders, and I asked that question, what makes you different? But just hearing exactly what has actually transpired, it's not just lending, it's all the extra layers of work that you do in order to make sure that everyone is safe.
As a lender, managing other people's money, you want to cross every T and you want to dot every I, right? And by doing that, by being very, very focused on securing your investor capital, you're securing your borrower's capital. There have been tons of deals, not from your perspective, but from other borrowers, where it wasn't fraud, but the deal just didn't make sense. It doesn't
Sure.
pencil out, right?
Yeah.
A lot of borrowers, a lot of investors, they have, especially the novice ones, they have these crazy assumptions. Oh, they're going to buy something for $1 million. They're going to put only $300,000 into it, and they're going to sell it for $2 million. Well, realistically, that $2 million sale is not really $2 million. It's like 1.7, right? And that $300,000 capex in the construction is really like $500,000 or $600,000. So realistically, you're losing money on this deal. And a lot of borrowers, they need to understand that as a lender, we protect not only our interest, but your interest as well.
Correct.
Because your success is our success. We want to see borrowers succeed and grow.
I'm going to take it like one step further also, because even after we got the deposit back and everything else, this wholesaler kept calling me back saying, listen, I got these guys. Instead of Thursday, we moved the closing to Tuesday, show up, come, blah, 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 blah. And I was, listen, again.
Trust me.
Trust me. So I was like, Ruben, do me a favor. Like, Ruben was like, I'm done with this already. I'm like,
I told him, I said, listen, he's calling he's still like, should I?
Are you still entertaining that?
No, I wasn't entertaining this, but
they basically said, they started bringing comfort. They said, hey, look, we'll bring everyone to the closing. All the sellers are going to be there. You're going to verify everyone's identity, the whole nine. You should still
Bro, the story was beautiful.
So he's calling me saying, listen, this is what they're doing. And I said, look, I don't know if you still want to do this or not, but I'm out. I'm not putting my investor.
So I asked him at this point, I said, no problem. I'll bring money. Do me a favor, Ruben, as a personal favor, as a friend, get on the call with me. And by the way, and by the way, that wholesaler just ruined the whole thing anyway with that second phone call, because he kept on going like, Mark, you don't know what you're talking about. Stick to being an investor.
Right.
Meanwhile, I wanted to tell this guy, like, Ruben knows firsthand, I probably did more business in 1 year than this guy did lifetime.
Thank God.
Lifetime. And this guy's telling me, I'm like, and by the way, I'm like, he's saying this, I'm laughing.
So look, everyone that's listening right now, these are called red flags, right? What are some of the red flags? Because all of these agents and people that want to get into the business, especially the ones that are new, right? If you're not experienced and I'm new in the business and I'm trying to get something, I can sniff out new people. Right. These are probably the folks that are going after these type of people. What are some of the red flags that these individuals should be looking for when they're getting into business? Well, anything specific?
I'm going to tell you that usually, look, if it's something, not to be repetitive, but if something's too good to be true, it usually is. And if something's really good, we all know as brokers, there's 5 guys that in every single neighborhood that are buying up every single deal, right? Because like, look, as a broker, all I want is commission. I don't care if you buy it or he buys it. I just want to get paid, right? I can pick up the phone. If I have a deal right now, I have 5 guys I could call.
Especially if you're active in that area.
Yeah, exactly. I have 5 guys I could call right now.
Why is this guy? Right?
Yes, sight unseen, will wire money and call it a day. So if you're actually sitting on something, and that's, like I show up to a property or to a deal and I'm just like, who else passed on this? Why didn't they buy it? And how am I here? So
ask those questions.
I have the same background as Ruben also, like not to get into me, but I come from nothing.
Right.
My first deal, I borrowed literally every single penny to put things together.
Scrub pennies together. That's the only way to do it.
Literally, man.
Yeah, me and you both have something in common as well, is because the fact of the matter is we both work with WeLend. We're both operators, right? So we were both able to borrow from the fund, right? Like anything else, there's no handouts. You're paying for the interest because they're, like he mentioned earlier, there's
capital.
There's interest to be paid, but we're happy.
I'm right. We're happy to pay it. And by the way, it's like one of the most. Let's put it this way. For me, it's the cost of doing business.
Right.
It's the same way you pay a roofer, you pay a plumber, you pay the lender. And you wouldn't be where you are today. And by the way, like on some of my returns, it's over 100%. That all thanks to him,
because
to
you
the
were
lender
able to get the leverage that you got. Exactly.
I've had like
otherwise
4 deals.
it wouldn't be anywhere even in the double digits if you don't have leverage.
Yeah, I've had 4 deals last year alone, thanks to Ruben, that probably over 100% returns.
Here's what it is. You're hitting a topic that other people may not understand. What I want to do is next time is really kind of divulge into that, and maybe we can go into that, because what you're talking about, specific people won't understand how leverage actually works. Unfortunately, we don't have time to get into that, but it's very important. It's very important to understand,
guys. That is
guys.
probably the most beautiful thing that if you use properly will help you accelerate in life to places you've never even dreamed of being.
It is a blessing and a curse. Leverage can be a blessing and a curse. And if you don't use it wisely, I've seen this time and time and over, right? If you don't use leverage wisely, it could be the common denominator to all the bankrupt developers and real estate operators. Because if you over leverage and there's any kind of market shift, now you got to bring money to the table at the sale, right? And I think a lot of smart real estate developers, the ones that you've seen that are, already generational wealth, is because they used the leverage right way, and I think that's critical.
Yeah. So debt is really misunderstood. Coming from somebody that that does debt on a daily basis. I started my business in the financing business, so I kind of understand that. And a lot of times when I work with other entrepreneurs and other operators, debt is really misunderstood, and you said it right. A lot of people don't really understand the long term. If you're looking at it from a short term perspective, how do I get here for 6 months? Then debt is not going to work in your favor because you have to utilize that for long term. Right. When I look at debt and when I look at any kind of deal, I say, okay, hold on a second. Let me work with this for 2 years. How are my numbers going to look for in year 3 or year 4? Right. So debt actually works, and I do want to go over that a little more thoroughly on some of the things that you just mentioned. That hey, hold on a second. I just 2x or I just 3x my money because of the leverage that I had. Right. So
I think going into any deal, whether the plan is to fix it and flip it, or the plan is to fix it and refinance, you always want to go into every deal knowing that both options work.
For sure.
Right? If the fix and flip option, for whatever reason, right, you
There's
just
a rental
can't get
strategy.
the price to get the property sold that you want, you have to know that there is going to be a rental strategy.
A rental back form.
Service the debt moving forward, right?
100%.
And we as lenders, as private lenders, we make sure when we underwrite a deal, a borrower comes to us and says, listen, I'm building this property, these are condos, and I know I'm going to be selling these condos at X price. We take their word on it, right? We do the verifications, we do the appraisals, the whole nine. But internally, we do a second approach underwrite to make sure that, okay, let's just say, for whatever reason, we verified that the property, the condos will be valued at X price per square footage, but let's just say for whatever reason that depreciates by 20%, and he can't sell it, right?
Happens all the time.
Can he service our debt through a rental strategy? And that is very important to any investor, whether experienced or not, is knowing that both strategies work at any time.
100%. And I got to say, and I also got to say that you do have a very good team behind you.
Yeah.
I've said it once.
We love Brian, by the way.
There it is. You literally took the words out of my mouth.
He is.
The guy is. Yeah, the guy is. I mean, he's a sweetheart.
Shout out
he knows.
to Brian.
Yeah, for sure, man. He's.
You guys are trying to get some underwriting kudos.
No, he's.
You guys are trying to get some underwriting
Listen,
credit.
I got to tell you,
he was good.
Look, I
He was
have
good.
Can't bribe the guy.
I will tell you, I have people that work for me. Probably only one will answer the phone after 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Brian, this guy will answer the call at 7:30 at night, 7:30 in the morning.
We have a very big, one of the number one things that we have is in our office, we don't have any landlines, right? I don't believe in landlines. Not because it's expensive or anything like that. No, not at all.
Costs nothing.
Really, the purpose is because I want to make sure that every single one of my operators, loan originators, underwriters, servicers, they all have cell phones and we're always accessible. That's the key, right?
Love
to
that.
your point, that's why he's answering at 7 o'clock in the morning or at 7 o'clock at night.
Or how about the fact that he was at a bachelor party and I needed to change my capital stack, and it needed to happen because
we had
to restructure it. There was no other way.
And that's the difference between me and other private lenders, right? Is that we make sure that the service is up and up. It's delivered, and exactly what I would expect as an operator is what I give to my borrowers, clients, and dear friends.
Listen,
I think that's what makes it good, by the way, because you see things because you
from an operator standpoint,
right? Because you used to be in our shoes,
right. That's how we got into this business, right?
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't even be.
By the way, when he told me that originally, I was like, at first I was like,
such as what?
That he's going into debt, and I was like,
why?
Yeah, I was like, what? Why? But by the way, also as a broker, right? You're looking at a developer. All I see is he bought it for $1, he sold it for $6. This guy made a kill.
So many moving parts with it, right? There's so
and
many
I didn't understand all these things.
To deal with,
and I was like,
buildings, HPD, right? It's such a big. I give you guys a lot of credit. I give you guys a lot of credit for navigating through all that.
Well, look, I mean, you're gonna change your mindset. The way that I look at things is that as you start to grow and as you start to progress, you start looking at different things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
I can almost guarantee that everyone in this room right now will merge and will do something different in life.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we're entrepreneurs by nature.
Looking at the other side of the field, and the grass always looks greener there for some reason, right? So, eventually, now the reason why I wanted to go into private lending and private credit is because, I was tired, I was worn out by having to deal with DOB, right? New York City's Department of Buildings is just infamous for whatever.
It's a whole other language you got to learn,
right? the shenanigans over there, right? So I was already really worn out from that, and then also having to deal with tenants, squatters, and sometimes even properties being broken into just to take the copper, right, and all this good stuff. So like for me, you know what it's like, right?
Yeah.
So for me,
Every
I wanted to find.
By the way, I took out 2 homeless guys and a like separately, 2 homeless guys and a squatter.
All in one day?
All in one day.
It's unreal, man. And for me, what I wanted to do is I wanted to find something that is more safe, right? It's safer, it's more consistent, but most importantly, it's passive, right? It's something that you can put your money into, and that there's a monthly.
But you're still involved in a couple of projects here and there.
I am from time to time. You're aware of it.
Yeah.
From time to time, I sometimes invest alongside other operators, and I help raise money for other operators.
Me and Ruben were just about to do. Speaking of in Bushwick, we're about to do a nice corner size deal together. And by the way, speaking of doing due diligence. Me and him ran the numbers 45
4 different ways.
Right? And it didn't work.
Unreal.
It didn't work.
It didn't work
it was just too tight. It was too tight. Like any shift in
one
way or the other, it was like, man, it's just
not enough
room for margin. We went back to the operator, who's actually a dear friend of mine, right? He got clipped over there. Feel bad for him.
But it's okay to say no. There's nothing wrong with saying no.
I say no probably 100 times before I say yes.
And this is
when I say yes, I second guess myself another 100 times.
And this is to everyone that's watching. It is okay to say no.
Correct.
We all say no to business. Move on. Don't dwell on the past. Look forward, because there's going to be so much more business coming to you.
Yeah. And by the way, if I could turn back time, even going back to brokering and when I just started. If I could have learned that lesson of saying no, I would be a lot further in life where I am. I was running around doing rentals in the Bronx, running back to Brooklyn, like taking on anything and everything. You wanted to sell a co-op on Ocean Parkway, I'm your guy. You want to rent a 1-bedroom in Bed-Stuy, I'm your guy. You want to do everything. I was so all over the place because I had no money, I had no nothing, right? And I was just looking like, how am I going to say no to this 1-bedroom rental for $1,800?
But listen, in the beginning, you kind of have to go diversify, try as much things, and then just find
But I
your
burn
niche.
myself out also.
But once you find your niche, stick to it.
Yes.
That's it. That's just your specialty. You focus on that, and that's it.
So, like, a couple of things before we end, right? Number one, I wanted to say this. Stress is definitely okay, but not something that drains your energy, right?
Yes.
Because we all go through stress. It's just natural, right? Well, because we have so many different things that goes on. We all working on different things. So anyone who's listening, don't worry about the stress. You guys are operators. You guys are trying things. You guys remember what I said. You got to put your foot forward, and you got to take a chance. Stress is okay, but not something that drains your energy. So
stress is even, I think it's on a higher level when you're operating as a real estate operator in New York City because of all the minutia.
So just by saying that, I definitely want to ask you this because your hub is here in New York, right? How are you right now with rent stabilization properties? And I want everyone to understand the actual dynamics as a lender.
I'll give you some examples, right? Today I got a call from a real estate attorney who has been working with this one Greek real estate operator who owns, I want to say probably about $200 million worth of real estate in Astoria. And he basically said, look, I have this one project, 52 units, and the borrower needs to just cash out some property, some of his equity. I said, sure, no problem. Let's discuss it. And he said, but this building, the 52-unit building, all of it is rent stabilized.
How do you approach that now? Knowing where we are right now.
I'll tell you right now. I just said, hey, look, all of it is stabilized. He said, all of it is stabilized.
I'm out.
No,
okay, so I want to talk to you about this, right? And the only reason I want to really touch base on that is because it is a common theme that I am seeing the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that right now that you guys are shying away from rent stabilization?
Not only private credit funds who are a little bit more risk adverse, right? We take a little bit more risk than, say, the regional banks do. But I speak to my friends at regional banks, right? Because when I underwrite a deal for an exit strategy, I know, okay, the debt service coverage ratio is there, or the debt yield is there, he's going to be able to take me out. I call my friends at these regional banks and I say, hey, look, here's the scenario, here's the area, what do you think? Here's the operator's kind of like, numbers, this is his net worth, this is his credit. What are your thoughts on it? And I'll tell you right now, every single regional bank contact, and I have some higher ups that are sitting in the corporate office, all of them are saying rent stabilized. Not for us. Rent stabilized.
I think it's going to be like this for another 4 years. Especially, I don't want to get into politics, but while Mamdani is in office, I don't think it's going anywhere.
No one will ever go out there and say it on record, right? Because they don't want to.
Well, that's why we're keeping it real right here.
We're
definitely keeping it real.
Regional banks won't do it, right? Because they don't want. They're so regulated. They're not going to go out there and say, "Hey, we're too afraid to lend in New York City because of the current administration."
And I'll tell you from a broker.
I just want to. Sorry to interject. I just want to make sure that we understand this. The reason why they're not lending in New York City.
This is what we want to understand.
Of the current administration. They're fearful. They're afraid. They don't know what's happening or what direction this is going, right? So
I'm sure banks are even more afraid.
So, this is why I wanted to ask you from your approach, because as of right now, from what I'm seeing, and I'm seeing the brokers a few years back, the ones that were just, they were closing 15, 20 deals a month of selling these buildings. Yeah. Right now, their business went down to maybe 5% because no one's buying that. So, because you guys are not lending, what do you feel like the real estate market is right now when it comes to rent stabilization?
Look, I think the rent stabilization market right now is going to be in pain for a good amount of time.
Who's buying?
I'll give you another example. So another buyer. So I had a real estate developer that called me. Actually, a broker called me. He said, "Look, I have this high net worth, ultra high net worth real estate developer. They own, a lot of properties in Midtown. He's buying this partially rent stabilized property. It's 10 units. 8 units are actually deregulated. 2 are regulated."
Okay.
I said, "Okay, in that case, I'll take a look at that."
Interesting.
Right? 80% deregulated? Sure, why not? He's again in the other 2 units, he's going to do a substantial rehab and then deregulate. I said, "Okay, you know what? I'll still take a look at that," assuming that the deregulation is not going to work. I'm thinking, all right, the 8 units that are actually deregulated will be able to cover the debt yield and the debt service to be able to take out my loan.
Right.
Long and behold, I find out that all the units are still regulated.
Oh, so then he didn't present it you the right way.
So I had to pass on it right away. So there's a lot of real estate investors who they see the blood in the water, right? They're sharks, right? And they want to go in there and start buying these properties and trying to deregulate them. But the problem is the administration is cramping down on that so much. They don't want any of it to be deregulated. But at the same time, if you look at most of the tenants that are actually in these regulated units, they're actually high net worth guys themselves.
Oh, yeah. Nobody's moving out.
Because they're using the system correctly. The whole
purpose of regulating units is to help those who are in need. But it is being abused by those who don't need it.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge, right? Is that we understand that we want to, look, I'm an immigrant myself, right? I came when I was 6 years old. My parents came with nothing, right? We lived in a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment with 15 people sometimes. So we know what it's like to help the smaller guy or to get the help, right? But at the same time, when it's being abused and used and abused the way in which it is now, and at the same time, those guys who are using and abusing are saying we need to keep it going, the regulations going, it's not fair. It's not fair to the mom and pop operators, real estate operators, who are trying to survive, to pay their property taxes, to pay their mortgage, to pay their property insurance, and keep things up.
Can I just add to that?
Yeah.
Also, because
you go and then I go and then as we're coming up on time.
Also, by the way, same thing. My parents came here with nothing. We were in a 1-bedroom, 5 adults, 2 kids, 1 bathroom. I think it was a 1-bedroom. I'm not even sure if it was a 1-bedroom, but
probably like a makeshift wall. Or something.
Anyway, and listen, and by the way, none of it was, nothing was stabilized. My dad was paying rent every single, came here as an engineer, went to making pizzas.
Yeah,
my dad didn't even know what a kitchen looked like, and we all worked our way up. And I just want to get back to the scam that's being run in New York City, especially because I see it firsthand. Right, I've got people coming into my open house, and I'll meet somebody, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I inherited my mom's rent-stabilized apartment on the Upper West Side. I live in a 2-bedroom for $700 facing Central Park." By the way, I've met these kind of people, and she's like, "Oh, if I find something," I'm like, "Why are you even looking? Like, where are you going? Stay there for $700." And
meanwhile, they're wearing a Rolex and driving a beautiful car.
Yeah. And by the way, these are like normal people that you would not suspect anything of, and they just abuse the system. And I want to say that the worst part about all of this is, forget about those people. It's the transplants here that are voting for this kind of administration, that is supporting this, that these people are not from New York City. They don't know what's going on. They don't see the abuse that's happening of the system, and they're supporting this, and they have a picture in their mind, which, by the way, is also a scam. Like, the free buses, the free everything. that's being promised.
Free delis or something like that.
And by the way, like
stores.
Right. And by the way, like even Mamdani's big promise about like stabilizing buildings, he's only going after the buildings that are already stabilized. But the way he make the marketing,
he's a good salesperson.
Is amazing. By the way,
great.
Well, he learned from his mom.
Is unreal.
Yeah, and I don't want to even get into the pictures of that.
Yeah. Let's not do that
last week, but
let's keep it to real. Let's keep it real.
I mean, that is keeping it real. The guy's hanging
to real estate.
The guy's mom is
keep it real estate.
But the main point that I was trying to make is his marketing is amazing because he thinks that the way he's selling it is every single building's rent is going to get stabilized.
Right.
I own buildings, by the way. You're not coming through stabilize. Like I have obviously no stabilization in my buildings, but the way he's making it sound is that he's going to tell me
he's going to be able to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very scary situation, and just to keep it, real estate, when I asked you who do you think the buyers are, whoever the buyers are of these larger rent stabilization, what complexes are the ones that could afford losses going on for the next
Correct.
10 years.
Correct.
Because rents are going down, but the expenses are going up.
Yeah.
So those are the guys that are just going to sit and take losses. So when you're talking about who's buying these actual properties, they're funds, they're REITs.
Right.
They're not individual guys. There's guys that are coming in.
Correct.
They
Where
form these
your
funds.
401k money is floating around.
It's just hold.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what I'm seeing because they're betting that this administration is not going to be here in the next 5 years.
Right.
Listen, but at one day or sooner or later, by the way, this is all going to backfire. This is communism and socialism.
Right.
So whether you want to say it in 10 years or less or more, but these laws have to change.
Well,
because at one point,
here's the thing:
all the operators are just going to say, "Thank you, Mr. Bank. Here the keys
to
the building."
Yeah.
I don't want any of this.
Here's the thing: we come with an open-mind approach, right? We have one individual here that really, just sided with his view on how the market is. We had other individuals that came onto our show and had presented their side of the view of what's really happening. So we have to keep an open mind onto what it is. Every individual is different. We can see things because we're in the field, right?
Yeah.
So we can talk about it because we understand it, right? Yeah. You understand it because you're in it, and you're the one that puts up the money for the people that want to come out and buy the properties.
Exactly.
First off, I just want to thank you for coming on the show.
Appreciate you guys having me, man.
We
honor.
usually end it with one question for all of our guests, and this is the type of question that that me and Mark really thought about, and the question is very simple: what's your why? Why do you do the things that you do every single day? Why do you wake up every morning and do the things that you do? What's the purpose behind it?
I think he wants to just hear me negotiate. I feel like he's like, I just want to get Mark on the phone and
let me call Mark.
I just want to see how he does it. But no, I think. Look, I think for me personally, when we came to America, I was like I said before, I was 6 years old. I was very observant, right? I saw how my father worked. I saw how my mom worked. My mom worked 4 or 5 cleaning jobs, 2 or 3 babysitting jobs, all at once, right? Snow, sleet, rain. She was out there walking because sometimes she didn't have the money for the bus fare, right? My father was a limousine cab driver, working, probably 20 hours, 18, 19 hours a day. 6 days a week, and it wasn't easy, right? So I think for me, seeing that hustle, the reason why they came to the United States of America, the greatest country there is.
Amen.
The reason why they came here is to be able to give us the ability to live the American dream, right? And to F that up in any way would be a disservice to the sacrifice that they have made. And they've made a lot of sacrifice. That was
so beautifully said, man. I got chills.
Oh, man.
Thank you. By the way, that was beautiful.
It's the value.
That was incredible. That was the best answer we've heard.
I appreciate that. And I think that's my why, is to make sure that I achieve that American dream that my parents wanted, for us to experience.
Well, I think you're on the right track. I think you're doing a lot of great things. I think your kids, I think your wife, I think your family should be very, very proud of what you've accomplished. You still have a long road ahead of you. I think you're doing a lot of great things with people like Mark and myself and everyone around you and all your clients. I think that you continue doing what you're doing and you're leading in the right direction.
I appreciate it.
I hope that you prosper in many ways. Thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate it. Guys, please make sure to follow. The link is right below. Keeping it real on Instagram, YouTube, and Coming soon, Facebook.
Yes.
Nice.
Facebook.
We got Apple Podcasts coming as well.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. All the best to you. And please let us know your comments and your thoughts. We'll talk to you soon. We're out.